Hi there, everyone. Thank you for coming and just so glad that you're here. If Feel free to leave your camera off, you can have it on. I want this to be a time where we're going to learn together. I'm going to give a presentation. Feel free, obviously, to keep yourself on mute just so that because this is being recorded, that others will be able to hear me fully on the presentation. But while I'm giving the presentation, if something comes up and you have a question or you have a comment, feel free to put it in the chat. I will leave time at the end for us to go over any kind of questions or anything that you might have and you want to know. But I'm just here to just to share with you what I've been experiencing in my role as a teacher, and I will get started. So if you have any questions, just feel free to put it in the chat though, for sure. Okay. Let me put that in. Okay. So this is, Yolanda, I'm the only one that I can only see your screen. Can you give me a thumbs up? Do you see the presentation? Can you see it? Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, good to see you. So this is chapter 1 in the book, Easy to Love, Difficult to Discipline. And the 7 basic skills for turning conflict into cooperation. And I'm holding up the book if you can see my little screen right now. And most of you might have had the book, but if not, no worries at all because I'm going to give some things in here from the presentation. I'll be sharing this out. I'll be sharing the recording as well. I encourage you to take notes on paper. But again, I will share this out after the presentation. I will email it out to you so you will have access to that as well. I'm just going to give a little introduction. So the reason this is just a little bit about me. My name is Laura Trotter. I do teach kindergarten at Lee. I have been in the district for 15 years, but I have been teaching for 20 years. And I taught first grade for 3 years, and then the rest have been in kindergarten. Um, I have 2 grown children of my own. Those are 2 of my kids. I have Waverly, who's 22, and Emerson, who is 18. And I found conscious discipline several years ago. I've attended a 10-session conscious discipline training with other educators. I've listened to numerous podcasts, YouTube videos, read books. I'm a lifelong learner, not only in my profession, but just even with discipline. I'm very intrigued about the brain and how it works and what happens. And even just with social emotional learning and trauma, it's just very interesting to me. And so I continue to learn and grow as others in the field continue to share their learnings. I love learning about that and how to put that in the classroom with kids. And I have presented to other teachers in our district about conscious discipline. And I've also coached a couple years ago prior to COVID. I did was able to go out of the classroom once a week and I was coaching other teachers and I was working with students across TK through 5th grade. I was helping just teach them just what conscious discipline is and how it works. So this is the most recent picture of my family, and that's my husband David. Didn't introduce him. He and I have been married for 27 years. We met in college, and yeah, we're learning how to be kind of empty nesters almost. So it's a new time in our life when we don't have the young kids. Hi, Adrian, I see you. Okay, so this is my why. The reason why I chose to do this is because number one, I am very passionate about helping children develop discipline within themselves. And I just realized that for myself, like not just me, but the adults in their lives are powerful influencers in this journey. It's not just me. You're part of this. You're part of the team with me. And so if I want to share, I really want to share my passion for this because I truly believe having grown children and then teaching daily in the classroom that kids need a lot of guidance and parenting does not come with handbooks. And so unless we're going out there and researching and reading and maybe we have child development degrees, we don't know exactly how to parent our kids and there's no guidebook. And our kids, as you can probably know with your children, that your child is unique. All kids are unique. My own 2 kids are so unique. And so the way that they that I need to raise them has been very different. And so I'm here just to kind of give you some tools in your tool belt to help you just grow in your parenting. And that's why I'm here. So, this is a quote from the book, and it is, I'm just gonna pull, there we go. Just wanted to pull the chat down in case, just if you just joined us, feel free to just put something in the chat if you have a question or comment. This was very interesting to me because it says discipline is not something you do to children, it's something you develop within them. And I just thought that's really interesting because I think sometimes we view discipline as I need to discipline my kid. And so the way that looks like, we kind of think, okay, we all have our own probably place we've come from with discipline. But I think about this is just an example of my own life. So about 5 years ago, I started wanting to just exercise more, eat more healthy. Not that I ate bad or anything, but I just felt like I wanted to just make sure I was just taking care of myself a little bit more. So I talked to a friend, and she helped me like start ordering like these smoothies, and then they gave me some workout videos and things like that. Now, if someone was constantly telling me like, do it, do it, do it, I think, and they were on me and yelling at me and doing it, I think I'd probably give up. I'd want to quit. But the more that it felt like there was no pressure, but the way that I just kept watching the videos and they were giving me tips and tools on how to like make better recipes and how to make better snacks and how to try this workout, I feel like it's become such a habit because they've imparted skills to me instead of me just telling me to just do it, just suck it up, just do it. It's become it within me, and now I can't imagine my life without it. So I just want you to know like that's just really resonates with me about discipline's not something you do to children, it's something you develop within them. So we're going to get more into what that even looks like of how do you develop it within them if we're not doing it to them. So what is conscious discipline? So conscious discipline actually, so obviously the parent book that we're reading is part of it, but it's a whole website, and I'm going to put that reference in the very last slide. But what conscious discipline is for teachers, it's equipping educators to integrate social emotional learning, discipline, and self-regulation so they spend less time policing behavior and more time teaching vital life skills. So I think in this day and age, as you can imagine, I mean, I don't think any of you on this call or anyone that's watching this have 22 to 24 children of your own. And I have that every day. And so for me, I don't want to be one that's having to police behavior all day because I have to teach them beyond behavior. I have to teach them how to read and write and do math. And so that I want to be equipped and how to help kids self-regulate so I don't have to do it for them. And then for parents, what it is it's a proven, comprehensive approach that empowers you with skills that create a safe, connected, problem-solving environment for your family. So wouldn't we all want that? We want to be able to create like this family unit that is able to solve problems and it feels safe and it's connected. And you might think you already have that. And hey, I don't doubt that. But I think for me, I am always a learner, like I said, and growing in that. I never want to give up growing because I'm always making mistakes. And I realize, hey, when I know better, I do better. So, something from this is from willful to willing. That's kind of one of the concepts. Once you model self control for your children, they will show better self-control than you have ever could than you have ever imagined they could achieve. So basically what that is saying is it starts with us. And I know that's sometimes can be like, what, how, my child is just driving me crazy, or this is not okay. But I'm going to tell you right now that when we model the self-control, it really creates in their brain a mirror. There we have these mirror neurons in our brains, and when we model for our children self-control, then that really can be passed along to them. And I think sometimes we say to kids, like we're kind of modeling this, we say, do as I say, just do it. But don't copy what I'm doing, just do as I say, just do it, follow directions, but don't copy my actions. So I think sometimes we really have to model the whole package for our children to really understand what it looks like to be a listener and to have that behavior put in place. So, just to keep that in mind, is that self control, it really does start with us. So, I want you to know that because I've had to really shift instead of blaming the students and saying, oh, you are driving me crazy. It's not about them, it's about my own self control. And so I'm here to be the first one to tell you that it's hard. It's going to be really hard. And, but yet at the same time, the rewards that I see, and I'll share some of those stories with you, are so powerful. So we got this and we can do it. I want to share with you what loving guidance, that's kind of what they talk about in conscious discipline, what that is. And perception basically is how we perceive a situation dictates the actions we will take. So, for example, if we're perceiving our child's behavior as a threat, okay, something they say something and it's something that triggers us, right? The perception. Maybe it's not really that, but it's we're perceiving it as threat, right? That is going to dictate the action you take with your child. So if you're perceiving that they're actually trying to bother you or they're trying to just bug you, your actions might be a little more harsh than just taking a calm break and self-control. And so what I want to talk to you about is making a shift. So when you make that shift, we must focus on our perceptions as well as our actions. So self-control is the first priority. We cannot pretend to be calm, right? The kids and they know it in our voice. Okay, they know it. If you're saying I'm calm, right, and you're not calm, they hear it. Or I love you, right, and you're saying it with this like super harsh tone, or just they know the difference. And so we cannot pretend. Kids pick up on what that looks like. They even notice our faces. And so if we're saying I love you and you're saying it with a really straight face and you look angry in your eyes, they see it. People pick up on that. And so when we focus on our perceptions and our actions, that's going to make a huge change in our loving guidance with our kids. And that starts with us again. And so that might look like before we go in, and there's this whole book is going to talk. So I don't want to get into everything tonight, but I will say when we make that shift for the perception and for our actions, we need to do a self inventory and look at ourselves and go, how am I going into this with my child? Am I coming in because I just perceived my child to do something that was felt really frustrating and threatening? And so we need to take a self inventory and realize, what's going on inside my body? Am I feeling super stressed? Am I feeling like I've had a long day and that just triggered one more thing? And so, what does that look like for me to maybe stop before they say something, take a little moment and take a deep breath? Maybe even three. I tell my kids in the class, we need to take 3 deep breaths because there's something about 3 deep breaths through our nose and out of our mouths that really calm our brains and help us to get back online. When we're not calm, everything can go sideways. Think about that with the adults in your life. Someone says something to you, and immediately you're like, why'd you say that? What do you mean? Right? Because you maybe had a rough day. Instead, you could maybe take a step back, take a deep breath, 3 of them, and just calm and realize, okay, maybe I need to see this in a little bit different way. So we'll get more into that later, but that's just making that little shift to realize our perceptions do matter. So this was not in the book, but I think this, as far as in the first chapter, but I think this is very important for you to understand what's going on in the brain. And this is very like, our brains are much more complex than this, way more, but way more. I don't want to, this is completely very simple, but I want you to understand kind of what's happening in our brains and in your child's brain, frankly, what happens when the different things are happening. So let's go to the red one where it says survival state. So when, back in gosh, when we feel a threat, when our perception is threat, we tend to go into that fight, flight, freeze, or surrender. So we kind of are thinking, am I being chased by a tiger, right? It's kind of that part of our brain where it's like we're really functioning out of the lower areas of our brain that cause us to freeze and we feel threat. And so our parent behaviors, when we feel like we have to fight, flight, freeze, or surrender, we feel like we have to be physically aggressive, tantrums, withdrawing. We're more physical in our actions. And the question we're asking ourselves, because we're in survival state, is, am I safe? And so I want you to think about maybe like sometimes when there's an interaction with your child or even just another adult in the house and something is said and all of a sudden your child might be going into physically aggressive tantrum withdrawing. That immediately will can give you a signal like, oh, they're in survival state. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, let's stop that right here because if you keep pushing on them with that survival state, you're going to get nowhere. You're going to get more tantrums, and we're going to talk more about what keeps happening if we do push. But I just want you to know that your child or any other adult in the survival state, when they're in that state, they're really actually not able to make a really sound decision that's helpful for you or for them. They're actually asking, am I safe? And they need to know that they're safe in order to calm their brain to be in a better place. Let's go over to the emotional state. So, the emotional state is more of kind of a story that we tell ourselves in the situation when something happens. It becomes like, think about, not so much like the fight, flight, or freeze. It's more of, um, am I loved? They might be asking, am I loved? And so the world is not going my way. So imagine your child, apparent behaviors, attention seeking, relationship resistance, clinginess, perfectionism, name calling, social exclusion, just anything that causes a lot of emotion. Am I loved? And that's what they're asking. And so, again, when I'm in an emotional state, I definitely am not in a place to think very clearly about a solution. How am I going to fix my behavior? I kind of need to take some breaks away from people and be like, oh my goodness, I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now. And I just want to know that I'm accepted for who I am and just go, you're loved. You are loved. And again, that's not a time to really be dealing with an issue with your child if they get spun into this state, because when they're in this state, they're not in a place of thinking clearly. So ultimately, what we want and when we can actually get the most, push and things are happening and we're in a great place is the executive state. And that's actually right in the prefrontal cortex of our brains, right in the frontal lobes. And when our child is able to kind of be in that place of they probably will not ask you, what can I learn? Because they're just that age. They're a lot of times kids don't want to know, what can I learn from you, mom and dad? But if they're open to you, they're really asking that. Their brain is calm. They're not in survival state. They're not in emotional state. They're able to say, what can I learn? They're ready to take in. Their perception, they're curious, they're reflective, they want to know what they can do to help. Their behavior is empathetic, they're ready to problem solve, they have buy-in. So imagine your child when they're very calm and they're open to you, they're calm, they're not in survival, they're not in emotional, they're ready to learn. It's because maybe you're showing them a lot of connection. They feel attended to, they feel loved. And so when they feel all those feelings of connection and love and safety, they're in executive state and they're ready to learn. And that is when you can solve problems that maybe arose when they were in the survival state, when they were in the emotional state. You can then go back and talk about the issue that happened. You don't want to go in to deal with the problem when they're in the middle of survival state. There is nothing good that's going to come of that. You do not want to go in to handle an issue when they're in the emotional state. You want to go, hey, let's calm down and then we'll talk about this later, because that's actually so much more helpful. You'll get through and you'll problem solve and have probably be able to redirect for the next time, which is like amazing. Okay, so this is a little more about the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex, Studies have shown that our prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until the age of 25. Okay, so imagine your children, 25. Okay, my own kids, 22 and 18, are still not fully developed. So they say things and they look like adults to me. So that's an example to me. My children look like adults, but they're still learning. And so for me, sometimes when they say things to me, I'm like, I don't discredit them, but I'm realizing, oh, they're still developing. They might not always have the most, they might be coming from a place of emotion or survival, or they're still learning. They make mistakes. They do things, and I have to let them make those mistakes to learn. So I realize that. So we need basically what we're needing to do is in our healthiest way we can be as adults is basically we're lending our executive functioning to our children during the years of continued development. So you have to imagine if you're not in a calm place and you're trying to lend your prefrontal cortex to your child, guess what? You're lending kind of a little bit of a crazy prefrontal cortex. You need to be willing to do the modeling so that you're passing that along to your child. We have to lend our brains, our brain functioning to our children because quite honestly, they're still developing. And like I said, till they're 25. So that's quite a long way from now. Okay, so in the book, um, it talks about the 7 powers of self-control. So the power of perception. This is huge. This is so huge. This has been a big shift for me. No one can make you angry without your permission. Now, I know I hear that all the time. My child makes me so angry. Well, nope, you chose it. You chose to let him get you angry because no one can make you. That is not, that's the power. You're perceiving it as they're trying to make you. I'm going to tell you right now, there is not a child in my class that wakes up in the morning and goes, oh, I'm going to make Mrs. Trotter so angry today. I'm going to go in and make her day bad. No kid is going to say that. No child wants to do that. They want to love you. They want to just give you their free love and they love it. But they might have some things that are triggering them. And so if we have to shift that, the self-control comes from when we're perceiving it in a different way. Nope, no one can make you angry without your permission. I tell the students sometimes they go, so and so made me so mad. I go, no, right here's the deal. I just say, did you like it? No. I said, remember, you're the boss of your own brain. No one can make you do anything without your permission. You're the boss of your brain, and so you can handle it and you can talk about using your big voice. The power of attention. What you focus on, you get more of. So here's the deal. If we're constantly focusing on, don't touch that, don't do that, don't talk to your brother that way, whatever, guess what? They're your child. I'm going to be real honest, is what your child is hearing is do it. If they don't even hear the don't, okay? They don't hear it. So when you say, don't jump off the couch, guess what? Their brain says, jump off the couch. That's what they hear. I'm not kidding you. They do. So if I focus on, wow, you're sitting so quietly, your hands are folded, you're sitting patiently, all of a sudden, the focus, the attention is on what they're doing well, not what they're not doing. If I'm always saying, sit down, you're not on your bottom, you're like standing up, I sound like a naggy teacher, and they're actually becoming worse if I start calling out all the negative behaviors. So the power of attention is very powerful for me. The power of free will. The only person you can make change is yourself. So we're going to talk more about how we think we can make our child behave. Oh, it starts with me. So I'm going to say the power of free will. Okay, the only person you can make change is yourself. And I'm growing a lot, and I've learned a ton by being responsible for myself and not having the mindset that I can change children, because that's not my goal. The power of unity. Focus on connecting instead of trying to be special. And what that means is basically being special, of course, is important, but I'm focused more on, like, we call ourselves like a school family, instead of like, oh, I'm praising you, you're just so amazing, and I'm building you up, and you're out of the ordinary. I want to make sure that we're unified as a class and we're connecting. My goal is more connection as opposed to being special and being right, because that's not my goal is to be right. I want to be a connector with the kids. The power of love, see the best in one another. That's so powerful. To see the best instead of the worst, because when we see the worst, we just get negative and it goes down such a negative path. The power of acceptance. The moment is as it is. When I'm in the middle of a child throwing a tantrum, if I fight it, I start to get really upset and I'm like, oh, stop crying, right? No, don't. If I can just stop and accept and go, yep, this tantrum's happening. We're going there. I'm going to take a deep breath and I'm going to let it happen and I'm going to go in. Here I go. Instead of fighting what it is, I need to accept the moment because the moment isn't going to change. It's going to happen. Whatever it is, the good, the bad, the ugly, it's happening. So I need to just accept it for what it is. And then the power of intention. Conflict is an opportunity to teach. So I can see that every time. Basically, discipline is to teach. That's what that means. To be a disciple means you're a learner. And so conflict is an opportunity to teach. So that's what we're going to talk more about is how can I reframe what I'm thinking of as my child's behavior and how do I reframe it? So let's go. Sorry. Okay, and I'm just going to touch on these real quick because I don't want to go too long these because these are in the book. But um, the 7 basic discipline skills. So because of the self-control, this is the 7 basic discipline skills. Composure, living the values you want your child to develop, encouragement, assertiveness, choices, positive intent, empathy, and consequences. So the next couple chapters get into the 7 basic discipline skills. So we'll get into that more, but they're here for you just to kind of read those little taglines under next to it. But it's very, all of these are very powerful, and all the chapters hit this. So we will get more into this eventually, but I just encourage you to just look over these and just like kind of just like think about what that looks like to you. This quote from the book says, "This through discipline, you teach your children how to resolve the conflicting needs of different people." So people are unique. Everyone around them is unique. People in your family are unique. People that they're going to come in contact with and over their lives are unique. Students they're going to have in their lives are unique. And so through discipline, discipline just means that you're teaching your child instead of giving like a consequence all the time or shutting their emotions down or saying, nope, don't, that's not okay. You don't do that. That's not nice. They probably need to know how to respond if they're having a conflict with another student or if they're having a conflict at home. Maybe they just don't know. And I'm going to tell you this about the prefrontal cortex. Children need to hear something probably then practice, hear it and practice one skill, probably at least 100 to 200 times to practice and keep and make it a positive. So let's just think about all the times that if you say, don't do that, don't do that. And then you finally start saying, okay, do, be helpful, sit on your bottom. If you're constantly doing the negative, that's in their brain. You need to shift it to be more of in a way that's teaching them the skills and they need it. And you should say, and sometimes I hear people say, I've said that 100 times. Well, guess what? They might need it 101 times. Maybe they need 102 times, maybe 103. But you can't assume they know. Remember, their brains are not developed till they're 25. And so you might say, you should know this. Well, I don't think they do because if they're doing it, I'm going to be honest, they probably just need you to have a little bit more empathy for them and to help them. And we will get into other things like what does that look like if they are feeling defiant and what does that look like? We will get into all of that. But I just want you to know that your kids do need a lot of practice. Okay, so that is super important to know that they may not know after one time, like I taught them that yesterday. They should know that. They need it a lot more. Okay, so let's get into The Journey from Fear to Love. This is on page 10 if you have your book and you wanted to look at that. So basically we're looking at, because we talked about the prefrontal cortex and the whole survival state, we're not being chased by tigers. Discipline should not feel that way with your child. It should not feel like they're fighting or flighting or freezing. We don't want that behavior. We don't want to feel, we are not instilling fear in them, because when they feel fear, they basically feel like they're getting chased by a tiger in their brain. That's what it feels like. So they do behaviors that are counteractive to what you want. Okay. So, and I'm going to tell you, the way I was raised, it's different than how I, raised my own children. And then even how I even raised my own children, it's very different than how I teach in my classroom, because I keep learning. So if you are learning some things tonight, I want you to know that it is not too late to continue to implement for the rest of your child. As parents, we're always parents, right? So we can continue to put these skills into practice, because when we know better, we do better. So basically, number one is love increases security and provides safety. And so when the child feels safe, that's how, like, they're going to be able to make sound decisions. Um, Love travels from the worthy to the worthy. Fear judges, love enjoys. We're going to talk more about what fear looks like and when we judge, as opposed to just feeling like love. And we think, yes. And I know all of you that are here and that are going to listen to this love your children so deeply. It's just sometimes I think the way we say things may not come out as the most loving way, and it comes across in a way that's maybe more fear based and more judgment based, as opposed to noticing. And I just want to make a few shifts and help with that. Love looks for the highest and best in people and situations. And love accepts what is. I accept you for who you are, right? Like I said, I've been married for 27 years, and you know what? I'm not going to change my husband. I'm not going to change him, right? I can't change my kids now, even though they're not, my own kids are 18 and 22. I'm probably not going to change them. They don't want to hear necessarily my advice, but I also need to know they're still developing. I need to accept them for who they are and be on them in this journey. So basically, the goal is to teach children to express themselves honestly, but at the same time, acting responsibly within a safe environment. So we want to keep it safe, and we'll talk more about how that needs to be safe and what that looks like. Safe, obviously, physically, but safe emotionally. What does that look like for us to have a safe emotional environment? But here's the thing down below. You must first feel free and responsible yourself. You cannot teach skills that you do not possess. So if you feel like you do not have a ton of love, or you're feeling very like for yourself, or you don't trust that you're like giving the best to your kids, I think this is a time to self-reflect, because I've had to do that myself in the classroom. Why am I so anxious? Why am I calling up the negative? Maybe it's because we're just tired. Maybe because we're having a bad day. But we might need to reflect back on ourselves and go, what is it to help myself feel responsible so that I can pass that along to kids? I cannot give what I do not have. So that's very, very important to remember. Okay, so fear-based discipline. Um, Basically, most of our parents relied on fear-based discipline. We, often clean up this mess or else da 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 da, right? We kind of might say that, and maybe what we were raised that way. Maybe we still parent that way. But I'm going to be honest, it's more fear-based. And sometimes we don't know what else to do. Well, what should I say? They're not listening. But fear-based discipline, I'm going to be honest, is just we need to make that shift to help our kids get out of the survival state. We often parent how we were parented. Rewards and punishments are a common practice. If you do this, then you'll get this, right? If you clean up your toys, I'm going to go buy you 10 new toys at Target, right? If you're good in the cart, I'm going to buy you 5 toys from Target, right? If you listen at dinner, you're going to get 100 minutes of iPad, right? Whatever that is, it's kind of that bait and switch. And so what happens is, instead of teaching them the discipline of whatever skill you want them to learn, they're basically it's the oh, I want the reward instead of, so it's almost like extrinsic as opposed to that intrinsic of teaching them what to value inside. And so I'll be honest, I was taught in my teaching program. Oh yeah, you just you get a big treasure box, and you every day they start off on the green card, and if they're good, you turn their card, to back to like even better to purple, and then if they're a little bit naughty, you give them a warning, yellow card. Okay, now you're on the red, now you're on the black. And it like seems like the same kids are always on the black card, and it's like, "Oh, well, where do they go from there?" Oh, okay. And then, oh my goodness, boys and girls, if you stay on the green card, you're going to get a big prize. And so, what they're valuing is, where's my treasure? Where's my treasure? That really didn't change the poor child who continued to have struggles with the behavior. They honestly kept on getting on the black card. And I was like, this is not fair for everyone. The same kids that are already self regulated are doing great, and the ones that are struggling aren't being taught. They're just being taught that the second you come in 5 minutes after class, you're already on the black card. And now what do you do? So I realized like that's not really helpful for them. I need to show them a different way. I'll be honest, children fear being deprived of treats or missing the cherished activities. They fear it. And so, yes, we want them to learn. And yes, that might be a consequence, but it's the whole like holding it over their head. And we give those threats for about like 100 times. Guess what? We're not going to go to Target. We're not going to go to Target. We're not going to go to Target. Right. And then it's like, and then finally, the child finally does it. Okay, we're going to Target, right? They've learned that like you can after 99 times, they can still push your buttons, and then finally you're like, okay, we're going, and you still give in. So it's kind of like that's not really helpful either, because you're exhausted after saying it 99 times, right? You're like, I don't want to do this anymore. So we need to learn how do we help our children become intrinsically motivated? And then reasoning with children is another form of fear-based discipline. So a lot of times, even reasoning, sometimes we kind of think of our kids as like little adults. So we're like, oh, why did you hit your sister? Why did you do that? And you know what that does immediately in their brain? That goes right to like an emotional survival state instead of that executive state where they're thinking. Their brain kind of goes offline. And guess what they're going to say? I don't know. Because a lot of them, again, prefrontal cortex, they don't know why they do things. Believe me, I've seen it all in my classroom. Kids, pick up a little eraser in their pocket. They like pick it up, they throw it across the classroom. If I say, why did you do that? They don't know. Honestly, they're like, it just seemed fun. I mean, I don't know. So then that's my job, is to teach them and go, oh, you saw an eraser. That looked like fun. When you see something that doesn't belong to you and you realize it, just say, Mrs. Trotter, can I hand this back to you? Or go put it back where you know it belongs. They need me to teach them and map it out for them. Otherwise, they'll just throw it. They don't understand. They forget. They don't know. And so if I drill them, they don't realize. They just go, I don't know. And then I'm not really teaching them anything. They just are getting kind of drilled. All right. So basically teaching. I'm going to talk about what teaching is about. Teaching is about giving. I'm giving my instruction. I'm giving myself to you. I want you to learn what that looks like. I want to teach you how to behave. I want to teach you skills in your life. Um, Control is about getting. So basically, if I'm trying to control a situation, I'm holding with my fist tight. I'm trying to get. I'm holding on tight. I'm going to fear it. I'm going to get it. I want it. But if I'm teaching, my hands are so open and I'm ready to give it. I want to help my child learn. And my hand is open, ready to build connection and unity and love. I don't want to hold my fist so tight, and I'm so uptight that I cannot receive what my child's going to teach me and what I want to help get help my child. I want to help them learn. And so that is such an important just thought about teaching. It's so important. Okay, so discipline in the brain. Um, we talked about this a little bit a few slides back, but just basically fear-based discipline triggers physical stress, and then it hampers the ability to learn from you. And so you think, why aren't you listening? Or why don't you, if you're coming from a place of fear-based discipline, you might find that they're needing you to repeat it over and over. And so what happens when you are more fear-based discipline, your child experiences stress, and stress hormones are released. And that's called, the chemical that's released is called cortisol. And when high cortisol levels actually are released, it can actually damage the brain cells in the hippocampus. And I'm not talking brain damage to your child, but I'm saying that when we're more fear based, we're not creating those neural pathways in your child's brain to help them learn the new skills. The hippocampus is a complex brain structure that plays a major role in learning and memory. And so if we're fear based, basically they're releasing cortisol and we're hampering what we want. We want them to learn, and we're not, if we're doing some more of the fear based tactics and things, then our child is not remembering as quickly as they could, and it derails what you need, what your goals are, your discipline goals. If you have them, you're derailing that because maybe we're coming from a place of more fear than in the little bit more. And you might say it's tough love. And I totally hear that. And I will take your questions. But I want you to hear me out through this whole book and stick with me, because I promise you, I feel like I'm a different person because I have taken the time to change myself, and I have learned so much. And my joy of being around children has increased 100-fold because I feel very confident that I can remove myself from when they're having a behavior. And I realize that my role is to teach them instead of make them. So we're going to get more into about the making and what that feels like in our shifts. So this is a quote that I believe is in the book somewhere, but I say this all the time, and I tell this to other teachers when they're feeling frustrated with their students. I say connection before correction. I say that all the time, and I say it to myself because if a child is needing a lot of correction, you're feeling like, oh my goodness, they are not listening. They're so frustrating, because you're going to go through waves in your child's life where maybe they're going to push you different ages, different times, they're going to challenge you, and depends. But believe me, your child needs to feel your connection and love at all times. And so for me as a teacher, because they're not my own children, I have to go back and go, these children, they don't know me like you. They don't love me like you, but like you as parents. But I need to build that connection so that they do feel like they're safe with me. And then I've almost earned the right to give them correction. If I just keep going in day one, hey, you sit down. Hey, you need to listen. Here's the rules. Look at my list. You better follow directions or else. I mean, the child might do it out of fear, but you know what? Those kids in my class, I will be honest, I mean, every day, Mrs. Trotter, they want to hug me. I even view all kindergartners in the whole, I try to get to know every kindergartner in the whole yard. Hey, what's your name? Oh, tell me about that. Wow, your shoes look so cool. It's connecting before correcting. And when I'm correcting them, it's not out of a harsh way. It's mostly usually like, I might be able to tell them in a way that's helpful. Hey, when you want to give your friend a high five, let's, for example, say a child gives a friend a super hard high five, and that friend is like, ow, that hurts so bad. If I'm connected to those children, I might say, hey, you really wanted to give your friend a high five because you really like them. Again, positive intent, right? The next time, I can see her face said she didn't really like that. That hurt. So you know what? The next time you give your friend a high five, let's try going a little softer like this. Let's practice. Oh, you got it? Let's try that. Let's practice. You got it? Okay, let's practice now one more time. Next thing you know, they've done it and they've learned the skill. And I might have to do it again, but they'll remember the next time. If I say, don't you ever give your friend a high five like that again. That is so painful. Do you know that? That's so shame-based, right? And they might feel so like embarrassed in front of their friends. But if I'm teaching from a heart of like love, it's way different, and it's accepted because their brain state is in a calm place. So that's just my thing, my plug about connection. And your children, I can tell you, all of you, I know, man, parents have the hardest job. You work so hard. Some of you are probably going to school after work. You're raising kids. You have commitments, and it is so exhausting. And guess what? The last thing sometimes you want to do, I know, after coming home from a long day or being home and on the computer working, is connecting. And all you see sometimes is just the behaviors are just bomb, bomb, blaring at you. I so understand that. And my heart is so for you. That's why I'm here. I'm cheering you on because you know what? A little snuggle, a little fun little connection with your child, like a little hug, a little snuggle, a little story, something will just calm their whole physical body in order to then be ready to like listen to you more and there's more buy-in. So that's just my little plug for that. But we'll get way deeper into all these things more at a later time. Choice versus force. The basic question you ask yourself when you use discipline-based love is, how can I help my child to be more likely to choose? And I say that all the time because when I've had a rough day with a kid, I literally come home and say, how can I help? Instead of the force, how can I make my child, whatever that is, right? Because when I'm saying that, it's the belief is that I can make them. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm trying to be controlling and that doesn't really work in a classroom. I'll be honest with me. If I try to make a child behave, it usually ends up in a tantrum, a mean face. They might go hit another student because they're super frustrated. So my choice is, how can I help them? And when I do that, you know what? When we ask ourselves that question, I'm going to be real honest, it actually helps your brain open up to more options as opposed to when you think of making your child, there's only a few options. Well, I can take away this, I can do this. But if I say, how can I help? I actually open my brain to a lot more options. Oh gosh, well, I could try maybe have them practice walking in the classroom tomorrow. I could help them have them draw a picture of them giving their friend a high five. I can I can be the one giving them the high five. Like I come up with like way more options than what can I do to make them? So I'm just thinking like that's the choice versus force because choices actually help children have more buy-in as opposed to force. When we force it, there is absolutely, they shut their brain down. But when we give choices, and we'll talk more about choice, but I'm going to be with choice, we want to give choices that are two choices that we can live with. So sometimes we give one choice that is one we want them to choose, and then we give them one choice that is almost the one that you don't want them to choose. And guess what? A strong-willed child is going to choose the one you don't want them to choose, right? Like you eat your dinner or go to bed. They're like, fine, go to bed, right? And you're like, oh no, that wasn't what I want. I want you to eat dinner, darn it. Like you don't want that, right? So we got to help them make choices like, you can eat your dinner at this chair or you can eat dinner at this chair. What do you choose? And that kind of helps a child. And we're going to practice more about how to help being choices. But the choices help a child to feel like they're in control as opposed to us being in control. We still are, but it helps the child to kind of feel like they are a little bit within structure. I hope that makes sense. But it really does help me to help children feel like they have buy-in. So that's just my little plug on choice versus force, but it really is powerful. Something quick on if you believe you could make your child mind, then you will resort to tactics that you really, and I mean, this is from the book, that you will hate yourself for using. You'll cajole, coerce, bribe, beg, force, threaten. I mean, you give in. And then at the very end, and you may even resort, and I'm not saying you do, but I'm just saying it happens. Child abuse, you may resort to violence if your child defies your will because you're so frustrated because they're not listening. And so when we do that, that is just again, go back to the fear based. We don't want to be fear based. We want to be ready to be that loving guidance, not fear based. Your job as a parent is actually to strengthen, not break your child's will. That will has a role to play ensuring their safety and fulfillment of their potential. So I'm going to be honest. I know sometimes we go, no, they have such a strong will. You know what? We don't want to break their will. We want to work with that will and help them make choices that are powerful. We want them to be strong. We want them to make decisions. We want them to be able to stand up for themselves when something's happening to them. We want them to use their big voice. We want them to stand up. We do not want to break their will and they're walking around with their shoulders slumped and they have no will and they have no power to make decisions. We want them to be powerful, but within our boundaries. And I definitely believe in boundaries. I definitely believe in powerful um, community where they have to know what their role is. It's not disrespectful. So I know this might all sound like, oh yeah, that sounds real great. I'm going to teach you strategies on how to help your child if you feel like this is new for me. What are you talking about? Like the only way I know is total love and permissiveness, or I only know total fear. I'm going to help us meld that together so that we can be powerful in our approach. And so our kids, they feel the love, but they feel the boundaries. They feel both and it's melded and it's beautiful. And our kids will be so much further than I feel like I ever was at their age because of it. And it's very important. So basically, we go back to what I think I mentioned earlier is just that to teach is to demonstrate by example. And this is just a beautiful picture, like you're showing. Always think about when you're disciplining to teach. Teaching and disciplining, think of those words together. You are showing your child. You need to show them with your body, your words, paint the picture, model it. You cannot assume they understand. They have to be shown by example. Demonstrate it for them. They need a lot of visuals. If I don't clip art from a computer, print it out, show them a routine. This is what it looks like to be a listener. This is what it looks like to brush your teeth. Let me show you. It's to demonstrate. Kids need that so much. And so just think of that word teach and discipline as one and the same. They need it. Real quick, we just a couple more slides before we finish up, but just misbehavior in your child's development. It actually serves many wonderful purposes, if you can believe it. It would be misguided to stop the behavior right away and be like, just stop it and squash it. When you see a misbehavior occurring, you wanted to make it a goal to reframe your outlook. Oh, and sometimes I'm going to speak into this about like even our own ego. When our child misbehaves, it can be embarrassing. It's like, what? Oh my God. I never taught you that. What? Oh my goodness. How embarrassing, right? It can be our ego can get in the middle of like, what? Why would you do that? What? Oh my, right? But when our child does something, again, prefrontal cortex, they're not 25. They need a lot of reminders. They're going to make mistakes and they are going to embarrass us, right? But we can't take it personal. I'm going to give you an acronym. That'll come later, but I'm going to give it to you now because you're going to use it. Q-tip. Quit taking it personal. Your child is not trying to embarrass you, or they're not trying. And whatever they say to you, they might say something because they're frustrated, but Q-tip. Quit taking it personal. Just realize that they're saying something maybe because they're frustrated. Step out of the whatever they just said and just calm your body and go, that was interesting. Maybe they're tired. Maybe they're hungry. Maybe they're angry. Maybe they need a break. Maybe I need a break from my child. I'm going to turn around and walk away for 5 minutes and I'll come back and deal with this comment, whatever you just said to me, right? But reframe your outlook. The goal is to prevent the likelihood of this misbehavior being repeated and becoming habitual. It happens once. Okay. Uh-oh. Signal. Need to teach into it. That's a problem. I don't want to keep happening. So I'm going to teach into it. Respond to it wisely, right? We don't want to overreact because when we overreact, it actually builds their mind to go, oh, I should do it more, right? If we keep saying, I'm going to do it more. No, respond to it wisely. That was interesting. I'm going to take a minute to think about what I need to do to teach you how to change this. Making mistakes are opportunities to learn and grow. So I think sometimes kids come in and they go, oh, I give them some feedback and they're like, oh gosh, I'm sorry. I'm like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. You're learning and it's okay to make mistakes. And I'm glad you're learning here. This is a place to learn and grow. But I think sometimes, I don't know, maybe sometimes we're perfectionists. I'm a perfectionist. I'll own it. And sometimes like even with my own kids, I was a little bit more like, oh, what, oh my gosh, why would you do that? Right. And now as a teacher, I've been a little bit more like, take a deep breath when something happens. Okay, you know what? You made a mistake. It's an opportunity to learn. We're going to grow through this. It's okay. We've got this. And then it serves children as a communication system. So basically, we learn like when they make a mistake, they're going to learn that they actually didn't get the results they wanted. So say like their misbehavior, say they push somebody, right? The kid's like, I don't want you to be my friend. You're going to push me. Well, all of a sudden that misbehavior served them as a communication system. I should not be doing that. That's hurtful to my friend, and no one wants to be my friend when I put my hands on people, right? So that misbehavior is actually, we kind of want it to happen. We can't put a bubble around our kids and like, chase them around, not making mistakes. We want them to have misbehavior so that they can learn, and then we can guide them through to learn a different way. And then just appreciating the misbehavior. I know that sounds funny, but it truly is. This is from page 20 to 21. Children learn what is safe and what is not, right? When like, okay, ready, the stove is hot, keep your hands off of it, right? They learn if they touch the stove, okay, I just learned that that's not safe. I need to, so that misbehavior, that's a misbehavior they touched when you told them it was not safe. They're learning now. Now they know. Teaches children how to communicate in order to get their needs met. Well, yeah, again, they need, instead of using your body, use your words to use to me in a way that's helpful and polite. Instead of yanking on my arm or kicking me, you need to use your words and ask me politely. Helps children learn what thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are appropriate, and how to help others, and how to have compassion toward others. Um, let's see, appropriate to have, yeah, sorry. Teaches children how to say yes to healthy things and no to unhealthy things. We want them, like, this week is Red Ribbon Week. We're not talking about the unhealthy things necessarily. We're just saying we need to be healthy. We need to make healthy choices for our bodies, friends. And misbehavior is part of that thing. When they learn, oh, that doesn't make you feel good when you do that. We want to say yes to healthy things. Our words are helpful. We need to be kind with our words, our food we put in our bodies. So it teaches children, the misbehavior teaches children how to say yes and no to things. Defines for children what is their business and what is not their business, right? They're going to move their way through the world. And then teaches children responsibility and provides children with opportunities to learn self-awareness and self-discipline. And I'll be honest, kindergartners are not very self-aware, and they're very not self-disciplined. A lot of them are not yet. And guess what? If I take it personal every day, and if I'm in a really bad place and I'm taking it all personal and I'm frustrated, I don't think I'm really helping them become more self-aware and self-disciplined. I'm really modeling what that looks like to be self-aware. Oh, wow. When someone doesn't have any space, I'm going to move my body back so they have more space to sit in the circle. Like I'm talking out what they might not have the words or the know-how to solve. And so I say what their brains might not aren't catching up with yet. So I always have to say a lot more than maybe you would expect, but I have to talk out what they just can't express. And that's what you have to do at home too. They might hit you or try to yell at you because they don't have the response that's mindful in enough time in order to formulate it. So when they go and have a place to just calm their bodies or to think about it, and they go back on, their brains can come back to the free prefrontal cortex and calm, they're able to come back online and have a talk with you and just like able to like work with you as opposed to being that survival or emotional state. This is just the final slide that I have for you, but discipline is a lifelong journey. It is not a technique. This is not a technique. I'm going to give you tools in your tool belt, and enjoy it, because you know what? The days are long, but the years are short. And if you are just dragging your way through, I mean, your children are 5 and 6. If your children are only, and some of you have older kids and man, I want you to enjoy this journey and not dislike this journey, because it is hard work and there are disappointments in the journey. But you know what? discipline doesn't have to feel so such like bad vibes in our heart and our mind. It can really be a place of learning and knowing that I'm walking alongside my child to help them. And there's such connection and love that can occur when you're doing it in a place of how can I help my child, as opposed to how can I make my child, or how can I do this to my child. It's how can I actually bring my child along and develop it within them, because I'm learning how to discipline myself and you're learning how to discipline yourself, and we're learning together with those boundaries. So it's so powerful. um, I was going to give you some resources. So the Conscious Discipline website, and again, I'm sharing these slides with you, but the Conscious Discipline website, you can learn more about it, and just there's a lot of free resources you can download. There's some of the different kinds of breaths we take in class. You can create a free account. There's a lot of like the different kinds of breaths we take. We take a pretzel breath and a drain breath. We have and there's visuals for it. And so, you know what? You could even benefit from these breaths. I promise you. I take breaths all the time now, and I think about the kids. We make up our own breaths. Maybe your children have even come home and said, "Look, I have a new breath for you," because they make up breaths all the time. It's hilarious. Like, "Oh, I have a bear breath. I have a heart breath." I mean, they come up with all these breaths and they show the actions, and it's amazing because they're learning how to breathe in their nose and out through their mouth, and it's so calming for their brains and so helpful. If you are on Instagram, these are a couple accounts that I would highly recommend. They always post some really great things. Kaylee Kukla, she is amazing. She's a mom and has a master's in I think child psychology. She is awesome and always posts such amazing things. And a friend of mine, she is honestly, I knew her prior to even being a parenting coach, but she is funny and she's awesome. Her name's Mary Van Geffen, and those are both of their Instagram accounts. I would highly recommend you follow them because they are so good, and I've gleaned a lot from them. And I already told them that I was going to put them in this presentation because I really want them to just know that they are very powerful tools. Other books beyond just the one that we're going to be reading is Beyond Behaviors. This is a really great book of just seeing kind of behavior as a framework of how your child develops over the years and what they need in order to be a whole, emotionally self-regulated person. And then also Connections Over Compliance, Rewiring Our Perception of Discipline. That's another book that's great as well. So those are a couple books. And the other slide that I'm going to show you is mine. If you have questions, I mean, I'm at school, obviously, and I'm in room 3 if you're not in our class. You are always, I'm always happy to, if you come and just check in, want to just ask a question, I'm available. I'm here for that because I'm passionate and I want you to feel set up to win, and parenting is hard. So just know that I'm here. That's my email if you have questions. This is our next book club is Tuesday, November 16th at 6:30. Again, I will record these and send them out. But we do have, I don't want to take too much more of our time, but oh, you're so welcome, Monica. Thank you. If you have any questions, is anybody, I'm going to give just a few minutes. If anybody wants to ask a question or anything, you can type it in the chat or just unmute yourself. Please feel free. I'm happy to answer a couple of questions if you have anything. Anybody? Okay.
Hi, Mrs. Trotter.
Hi.
Um, you know, I don't know, maybe this will get into it more in further in the book, but it's like I totally understand the fear versus love thing. But I find myself sometimes like I'll have moments where it's like, well, just like tonight, for example, like Matthew does this scream that like actually hurts my ears, like, and he kept doing it, and we've had this issue, and so I was like, okay, like if you scream again like that, we're not going to read 3 books tonight. We're going to read 2 books, you know? And it was like, I'm taking away a privilege because that's what I like. That was what I, how I was parented. And so it's like, I can recognize that that's sort of like a fear-based thing, but I'm also like, I don't know what else to do, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, no, I totally get it, and it will get more into that. And you know what? But at the same time, something that so okay, so he's kind of sounds like he does this like regularly, right? Like he maybe does have this screaming thing, like maybe does he do it at bedtime, or is it just kind of like
Well, it's a, yeah. I mean, sometimes it's when he's having, he's upset about something and he doesn't have the words to like deal with it.
Yeah.
It's like I
Yeah.
recognize like he's just having this, he's upset, and then it's just this like ear piercing scream.
Yep. 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 And so that could be something where, like, when he is calm, you can, like, sometimes I'll make little books for kids that I have like visuals and like the behavior you want it to look like. So Matthew's, calming down book, for example. And so picture of Matthew, you make a little book for him and you guys read it together. It's like, when, mommy loves you, whatever. And then when I feel upset, I will go to a safe place. And that's something like that we have in our classroom. And that could be something really great. Have your child help you create a little place in the house that it could be their room, but it could be a place that's just a place that feels comforting and safe. I have a little low desk. I took the legs off. I brought some squishy toys. I put notepads. I put stuffy animals. It's a place for them to be in the safe place. It's not punitive. It's not a timeout. It's a place for them to go calm down. And so when they know it's not punitive, it's a place to go. So obviously, if it's at bedtime, you're like, buddy, you need to go to bed, whatever. But I would front load where this is what the behaviors expected. We expect you to, and then talking about like the screaming. Okay, tonight, like, and obviously when it's happening, you're like, okay, you know what? You really are tired. I can see that. Tonight we will have time for one book or two books, your choice. So it's kind of like, and I can help you think through a little bit more, brainstorming more later about like specifics, but like in that moment, it's like you're feeling so that stress because you're like, I just want to go, get on Mrs. Trotter's call and I want you to go to bed and so that stress creates more of that, like it just perpetuates, like he's stressed and you feel stressed. And then what do? And you just like get it done. And so, but I know what you're talking about. And so I do have some strategies I can help you with and thinking about that. But thank you. I'm sure so many people can relate to that. It's like, what do I do when my child is just not stopping? Right. And it's like, what do I respond to? So thank you for being brave to ask that question, but I will definitely address that more. Yeah. I see other people saying, yep, for sure. I get it.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Anything else? Hi, Jordan. Good to see you.
Oh, I just want to say thank you. I'm gonna actually head out to get the kids ready for bed, but this was really
Absolutely.
great and helpful and
Yeah.
excited to dive into this. So nice to see everybody.
Who's your child? Just so I
Oh, I'm just some random guy. I'm just kidding. My daughter is Talia. She's in Miss Jasper's class, and
Yes.
that was a really awkward joke. I'm not a random person.
Like, wow,
Room
you got the
5.
link. You jumped on it. No, it's okay. I'm so glad you're here. I know Talia. I'm so glad. Thank you for coming. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you. Bye, everybody.
Right. Okay. Bye. All right. Well, everybody, I don't want to take any more of your time because I know it's late and kids need to get to bed. But again, please email me. I'll talk to you anything you need. I will, and then next month we'll dive into the next chapter. But in the meantime, I'm happy to help with anything. But thank you for coming and have a great evening. Okay. Take care.